Travis Cade leaned back in his chair, rubbing his tired eyes. The hum of the orbital station, Aurora 17, filled the quiet room, a constant reminder that he was floating hundreds of miles above a distant planet. He had been working for 3 weeks straight, fixing mining drones, recalibrating security panels, and handling emergency repairs. His quarters were a mess, cluttered with spare tools, food wrappers, and datapads filled with half-written reports. He sighed. I need to clean this place up. But he didn't have the energy to do it himself. Tapping his console, he accessed Celestial Maidens, Incorporated, a cleaning service that hired workers from various alien species. The company had a strong reputation for professionalism, and its employees were thorough, efficient, and discreet, which was exactly what he needed. As he scrolled through the available maids, one name caught his attention. Vianney. His lips curled into a small smile. She was a Xilari, a species known for their bioluminescent skin, 4 bright eyes, and graceful movements. He had hired her a few times before, and each visit had been interesting. Unlike some of the other staff, she actually talked to him, not just about cleaning, but about space travel, alien technology, and the strange world she had seen. She was beautiful, too. Her sapphire blue skin shimmered under the station's artificial lights, and the glowing patterns on her arms pulsed gently whenever she concentrated. She wore the standard Celestial Maiden's uniform, a sleek white bodysuit with silver accents, but on her it looked almost regal. Travis shook his head, pulling himself from his thoughts. It's just a cleaning service. No big deal. He selected her name and confirmed the request. A message popped up instantly. Your assigned maid, Vianney, will arrive within 1 standard hour. Perfect. He could take a quick nap before she arrived. Exactly an hour later, a soft chime echoed through his quarters. Travis sat up groggily. Come in. The doors slid open with a quiet hiss, and Vianney stepped inside. Something was different. She stood in the doorway, her usual confident posture slightly unsteady. Her 4 glowing eyes flickered, scanning the room with a strange intensity. She was breathing faster than normal, and as she moved, her body language seemed tense. Travis frowned. You okay? Vianney hesitated before offering a small, forced smile. Yes, of course. Just adjusting to the station's atmosphere again. He didn't buy it. Something about her seemed off. Then he noticed it. A faint, almost sweet scent lingered in the air, growing stronger with every passing second. It wasn't unpleasant, but it made his thoughts feel hazy, like he was standing too close to a heat source. Vianney took a slow step forward, her fingers tightening around the cleaning kit in her hands. I should begin, she murmured, her voice softer than usual. Travis blinked, trying to shake the fog from his mind. Yeah, sure. As she moved past him, he felt a sudden warmth radiating from her. He watched her carefully, his instincts telling him that something was definitely not normal. And he was right, because in that moment, Vianney's bioluminescent markings pulsed brighter than he had ever seen before. Travis watched as Vianney moved through the room, her steps unusually slow and deliberate. Normally, she worked with swift precision, wiping down surfaces, organizing clutter, and handling even the toughest stains with ease. But today, something was different. Her bioluminescent markings, which usually pulsed in a gentle rhythm, now glowed with an almost hypnotic intensity. The intricate lines on her arms and neck shimmered in waves, shifting between soft blues and deep violets. Her 4 luminous eyes, always sharp and observant, now seemed unfocused, as if she were struggling to concentrate. Travis rubbed the back of his neck. The strange scent in the air was getting stronger, making it hard to ignore. His quarters weren't particularly warm, yet he felt a growing heat spreading through his body, like standing under a sunlamp for too long. Vianney knelt to pick up a stray datapad, but as she did, her breath hitched. She gripped the edge of the table for support, her fingers tightening around the smooth surface. Travis stepped forward. Vianney, "Are you sure you're okay?" She flinched slightly at his voice, then turned her gaze toward him. For a moment, she simply stared. Her four eyes locked onto him with an intensity that sent a shiver down his spine. It wasn't fear. It wasn't discomfort. It was something else, something unreadable, yet strangely instinctive. After a long pause, she finally spoke. "I was not expecting this." Travis frowned. Expecting what? She hesitated, as if searching for the right words. Then, after a deep breath, she straightened her posture and forced a small smile. "It's nothing. I will complete my duties." But when she turned back to her work, her movements were even more rigid. Something was definitely wrong. A rising concern. Travis leaned against the wall, watching her closely. He had worked with plenty of aliens before, and he knew that different species had their own quirks. Some were sensitive to certain sounds, others couldn't tolerate high oxygen levels. If something was affecting Vayani, he needed to figure out what it was. He tapped a few commands on his datapad, pulling up a brief medical overview of the auxiliary species. His eyes scanned the screen, skipping over the usual details: enhanced vision, bioluminescent communication, high adaptability, until he landed on something new. Ciliary mating cycles, a rare biological event, triggered by proximity to a genetically compatible partner. During this period, the ciliary experiences heightened sensory perception, an increase in body temperature, and an instinctual drive toward their chosen mate. Failure to regulate the cycle can lead to temporary neurological strain or collapse. Travis froze. Slowly, he lifted his gaze back to Vayani, who was now gripping the edge of his desk, her breathing uneven. Oh, that explained a lot. An awkward realization. Travis exhaled sharply. "Vayani, how long have you been feeling like this?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she kept her back to him, as if debating whether or not to respond. When she finally did, her voice was barely above a whisper. "Since I arrived." Travis pinched the bridge of his nose. "Right. And this is because of you." That single word sent a wave of tension through the room. Vayani turned to face him, her glowing eyes filled with something between embarrassment and frustration. "It is unexpected," she admitted. "This has never happened to me before." Travis ran a hand through his hair, suddenly feeling the weight of the situation. He had heard of alien compatibility before. Humans had a weird tendency to match with all sorts of species, but he had never imagined he would be the trigger for something like this. Vayani's hands trembled as she tried to continue cleaning, but she barely made it another step before she stumbled. Without thinking, Travis caught her. Her body was warmer than normal, and the moment his hands touched her arms, her bioluminescent markings flared brightly. She inhaled sharply, as if his touch sent a shock through her system. Travis swallowed hard. "Okay, we need to figure this out before it gets worse." Vayani blinked at him, her breathing still shaky. "I do not know how to stop it." The air between them felt thick with tension. The situation was clear now. If they didn't do something soon, her condition would only intensify. And worse, the station's security AI was programmed to detect biological anomalies. If it picked up on the pheromone changes in the room, it would lock them both down. Travis exhaled. "All right. No pressure. We just need a solution before this turns into a full-blown emergency." Vayani looked at him, her four eyes shimmering with uncertainty. "And if we don't?" she asked softly. Travis glanced at the security monitor, where a faint red warning light had just started blinking. "Then we're gonna have a problem." The red warning light pulsed softly on the wall panel, signaling that Sentinel-9, the station's security AI, had detected anomalous biological activity. Travis gritted his teeth. This was bad. If Sentinel-9 flagged them as a biohazard risk, the station's security system would lock them down, send in medical drones, and worst of all, remove Vayani from the station for safety protocols. That couldn't happen. He turned to Vayani, who was still gripping the edge of his desk, trying to stay upright. The soft glow of her bioluminescent markings flickered in a rhythmic pulse, her body struggling to fight against whatever was happening to her. Her breath was unsteady, and her 4 glowing eyes met his with silent urgency. "How much time do we have before this gets worse?" Travis asked. Vayani shook her head. "I do not know." Her voice was softer now, her usual sharp confidence fading. "This is uncharted for me." Travis exhaled sharply. "All right. Then we need to move. Now." Breaking the rules. The station's biohazard protocol worked in stages. Right now, the system was in stage 1. Analyzing the anomaly. If it found no immediate danger, the alert would fade. But if the AI sensors kept detecting changes, like rising body temperature, unbalanced pheromone levels, or neurological instability, it would escalate to stage 2, meaning a full quarantine lockdown. That meant they had maybe 5 minutes before things got serious. Travis grabbed his datapad, pulling up the station's security system. If he could override the biohazard scan, he could buy them more time. His fingers moved fast, typing in a manual override command. The screen flashed. Access denied. Biohazard protocol engaged. Travis cursed under his breath. The AI had already locked him out of the system. Plan B, then. He turned back to Vayani, who was still standing but looked weaker by the second. Her glowing skin shimmered under the station lights, her body fighting against instincts she clearly wasn't prepared for. Travis hesitated for half a second, then stepped closer, gently placing a hand on her arm. She shivered at the contact, her 4 eyes flickering open wide. "What?" "Just trust me," he said. "We need to get to the maintenance wing. The AI doesn't have full surveillance there." Vayani nodded, though he could see the uncertainty in her glowing gaze. Without wasting another second, he pulled her arm over his shoulder, supporting her as they moved toward the door. A desperate escape. The hallway outside was quiet, but the red emergency lights pulsed faintly overhead. Sentinel-9 was still analyzing the anomaly, but time was running out. Travis led Vayani through the corridors, avoiding the security checkpoints. Thankfully, he knew the station well. Too well, according to his supervisors. They reached a small maintenance hatch, a hidden access point meant for engineers. Travis punched in a manual code, and the door slid open with a soft hiss. Inside. Quickly. Vayani stepped in, her breathing uneven, her bioluminescent glow now of a deep, shifting blue. Travis followed, sealing the door behind them. For now, they were hidden. He turned to Vayani, who was leaning against the metal wall, her body still tense. "Okay," he said. "We're off the eye sensors, for now. But we need to figure out how to stabilize you." Vayani looked at him, her 4 glowing eyes reflecting the dim emergency light. "And if we don't?" she asked softly. Travis sighed, glancing at the station's blinking red alerts on his datapad. "Then Sentinel-9 is going to come looking for us." Travis leaned against the cold metal wall of the maintenance wing, his heartbeat steady, but his mind racing. The soft red glow of the security alerts pulsed on his datapad, a reminder that Sentinel-9 was still tracking the anomaly. They had managed to avoid the Stage 2 lockdown, but it was only a matter of time before the AI expanded its search parameters. Across from him, Vayani sat on the floor, her arms resting on her knees, her glowing skin flickering with deep blue and violet hues. She was clearly struggling, her breathing shallow, her body tense, and her eyes unfocused. Travis crouched beside her. "All right, we need a plan." Vayani exhaled slowly, closing her 4 glowing eyes for a brief moment. I do not know how long I can hold this back." Her voice was quieter than usual, lacking its usual confidence. Travis studied her carefully. "What exactly happens if this gets worse?" She hesitated before answering. "Xilari do not handle this process well alone." She swallowed, her glow pulsing in time with her breathing. "If it continues without regulation, my body will force itself into a dormant state to recover. but that will cause a severe biological spike, and Sentinel-9 will detect it instantly. Travis ran a hand through his hair. So either we fix this, or the AI locks down the station and drags you into medical stasis. Vayani nodded. Correct. That was not an option. Travis tapped on his datapad, pulling up Silari biological data again. He scrolled past the basic details until he found something useful. All right, it says here that Silari need a controlled environment to stabilize their energy levels during this phase. He glanced up at her. Would a low-oxygen room help? Maybe we could tweak the station's air balance. Vayani shook her head. No. The solution is more specific. Travis frowned. How specific? She hesitated, her 4 eyes flickering between him and the datapad in his hands. Travis exhaled. I need you to be honest with me, Vayani. If we don't handle this now, Sentinel-9 is going to force its way in here. A tense silence filled the small room. Then, finally, Vayani looked directly at him, her glowing gaze unreadable. There may be another way, she admitted, but it requires trust. Travis narrowed his eyes. Trust I can do. What do we need to do? Vayani hesitated for another moment, then reached out and pressed her palm against his chest. The moment she made contact, her bioluminescent markings flared brightly, pulsing in gold and violet hues. Travis stiffened as a strange warmth spread from the point of contact, moving through his body like a gentle current of energy. Vayani's breath hitched. This might work. Travis held still, letting her focus. Whatever she was doing, it was clear she needed to concentrate. Then the security panel on the wall beeped. Travis's head snapped toward the screen. ALERT. Biohazard readings escalating. His stomach dropped. They were out of time. Vayani's grip on his chest tightened slightly as her bioluminescent glow surged. Trust me, she whispered. Travis took a deep breath. I already do. And as the station's alarms grew louder, he knew there was no turning back. The alarm blared in the small maintenance room, its rhythmic pulses echoing off the metal walls. Sentinel-9 had escalated the alert. They were officially in Stage 2 lockdown. Travis clenched his jaw. That's not good. Vayani's 4 glowing eyes fluttered open, her markings still pulsing in soft gold and violet waves. She pulled her hand away from Travis's chest, exhaling slowly. It helped, she whispered, but not enough. She looked stronger than before, but Travis could see the strain still in her expression. Whatever biological process her species was going through, it wasn't over yet. The security panel flashed again. Bodo Ernang. Biohazard lo siki diodio in inhinjaged. Station medical drones en route. Travis tensed. Damn it. We have to move. Now. He grabbed Vayani's wrist and pulled her to her feet. She wavered slightly but steadied herself. Where? She asked, her voice still a little breathless. Travis scanned the maintenance map on his datapad, his mind racing. The station had multiple security checkpoints, and if they stayed here, they'd be trapped. Then he saw it, a hidden ventilation tunnel that led to the lower engineering deck. This way. A tight escape. Travis pulled open a maintenance hatch in the wall, revealing a narrow air duct leading downward. Vayani blinked at it. That does not look comfortable. It's not, Travis admitted, but it's better than getting locked in a medical quarantine. Vayani hesitated for only a second before nodding. Very well. She gracefully climbed inside, her bioluminescent glow illuminating the metal tunnel. Travis followed, sealing the hatch behind them. The space was tight, barely enough for them to crawl. The metal walls hummed with the distant vibrations of the station, and the faint sounds of security drones scanning the corridors sent a chill down Travis's spine. They moved quickly but carefully, making their way toward the engineering deck. Then the ventilation system shuddered, and a robotic voice echoed through the tunnels. Unauthorized personnel detected. Security intervention in progress. Travis cursed under his breath. Sentinel-9 had locked onto them. "We need to move faster," he hissed. Vayani didn't respond, but her glowing eyes met his in silent understanding. Cornered, they reached the end of the tunnel, where a maintenance grate led into an old engineering bay. Travis kicked the grate loose, dropping down first. He turned back to help Vayani, who landed beside him in a smooth motion. The room was dimly lit, filled with old equipment and unused storage crates. It was far from the main security grid, which meant they had a chance to hide, if they could stay quiet. Travis took a deep breath. All right, we're off the main scanners, but it won't take long before Sentinel-9 reroutes the drones. Vayani swayed slightly, catching herself against a console. Travis reached out instinctively, steadying her. "Hey, you okay?" She nodded slowly, her bioluminescent glow flickering unsteadily. "I just need more time." More time was the one thing they didn't have. Then, footsteps. Travis tensed, pressing a finger to his lips as he and Vayani ducked behind a metal crate. A security drone hovered into the room, its glowing red sensors scanning the area. Vayani's breathing was uneven, her energy still fluctuating. If the drone picked up on her biological signals, Travis acted fast. He wrapped an arm around her shoulders, pulling her close, shielding her from the scanner's direct line of sight. Vayani stiffened at first, but then relaxed against him, her breathing slowing. The drone paused, its sensors flickering. Travis held his breath. For a long moment, the only sound was the faint hum of the station. Then, the drone turned and left. Travis exhaled. That was too close. Vayani pulled away slightly, her 4 eyes searching his face. "You protected me." Travis smirked. "Of course, that's what humans do." Her bioluminescent glow softened, shifting into a calm, golden hue. For the first time since this started, she didn't look afraid. But the danger wasn't over. As the security drone's footsteps faded, Travis turned back to his datapad. Sentinel-9 had just issued a station-wide alert. Now, every drone on board was searching for them. Travis stared at his datapad, his stomach tightening. The new security alert flashed across the screen. "Priority containment. All biological anomalies must be secured." Sentinel-9 had escalated the situation to station-wide lockdown. Every security drone and automated patrol was now actively searching for them. Travis clenched his jaw. This just keeps getting worse. Beside him, Vayani leaned against the console, her glowing skin dimming slightly. The brief moment of calm they had shared was gone. The urgency of their situation pressed down on them once again. She looked at him, her 4 eyes reflecting the dim emergency lights. "They will not stop until they find me." Travis exhaled sharply. "Then we make sure they don't." A risky move. Travis knew they couldn't stay in the engineering bay. The drones would eventually sweep through. They needed a real plan, a way to shut down Sentinel-9's tracking system before it locked onto Vayani's biosignature again. He studied the room, his eyes landing on an old manual control panel near the back wall. A crazy idea formed in his mind. "I think I can override the station's security grid." He glanced at Vayani. "If I shut down the eye's bioscanners, it won't be able to track you." Vayani's glow flickered slightly. "You would have to disable part of the central system. Wouldn't that trigger a failsafe?" Travis grinned. "Only if I do it wrong." He rushed over to the control panel and pried open the casing, exposing a mess of old wiring and circuits. Unlike the station's main systems, which were protected by Sentinel-9's firewalls, these manual override controls were old school, no AI interference. If he could reprogram a looped signal, he could trick Sentinel-9 into thinking Vayani's biosignature was neutralized. But he had to move fast. The system fights back. As Travis worked, his fingers flying over the control panel, Vayani stood near the entrance, her sharp gaze scanning the shadows. She could feel the station pressing in around her, the artificial air too thick, the hum of energy pulsing too strong. Her body still fought against the unbalanced energy within her, but she forced herself to focus. Then, a metallic sound echoed from the corridor. Her entire body went rigid. Drones. Coming fast. Travis, she whispered urgently. He didn't look up. Almost there. The control panel flickered as he bypassed another firewall. He was close. Just a little more. A mechanical voice crackled over the intercom. Unauthorized access detected. Security drones deploying. The hallway filled with red emergency lights as multiple drones descended from the ceiling panels. Vayani tensed, her glowing skin flaring bright gold as she took a step forward. She wasn't defenseless. Solari were stronger than humans, but she was still weak. She wouldn't last against all of them. Travis cursed under his breath. Just a few more seconds. The first drone aimed its scanner at them. Biohazard TRGT-LOCATED. The drone's arm-mounted taser charged up, crackling with blue electricity. Vayani reacted instinctively. She lunged forward, her bioluminescent markings surging, and struck the drone hard, sending it crashing against the wall. But the others were still coming. Travis had to hurry. Shutting down Sentinel-9. Travis gritted his teeth, pushing the final override command. The console flickered violently. Then a final screen popped up. BIOSCANOVRIDE ENGGD. TORGKT status. Neutralized. The station lurched slightly as the security grid flickered, and all at once, the drones froze mid-action, their scanners losing the biological lock. The emergency lights dimmed. The voice of Sentinel-9 spoke over the intercom. Anomaly resolved. Returning to standby mode. Travis exhaled sharply, stepping back from the control panel. We did it. Vayani stood among the fallen drones, her glowing skin slowly stabilizing. She turned to him, her expression unreadable for a moment. Then it softened. You stopped them. Travis grinned, running a hand through his messy hair. Yeah. I'm pretty good at breaking the rules. Vayani tilted her head slightly, then smiled, a rare, genuine expression. But the relief was short-lived. Because just as the drones powered down, a new warning light blinked on the console. A message appeared on the screen. High res KAL or TTRINSMITTED to Central Command. Manuel CCURITYNT or V in Chion E en route. Travis's stomach dropped. Sentinel-9 had stopped tracking Vayani's biosignature. But now, the station's human security team was coming, and they wouldn't be as easy to trick. A warning klaxon blared overhead, the deep hum vibrating through the walls. Unlike before, this wasn't an automated drone alert. This was a manual intervention signal. Travis stared at the console, his stomach twisting. Sentinel-9 had been neutralized, for now, but the station's human security team had just been deployed. And they wouldn't rely on scanners or drones. They'd check every room, every corridor, every hatch by hand. Vayani stood beside him, her bioluminescent skin still fluctuating between gold and violet, though it was more stable than before. They will come soon, she said. Travis rubbed the back of his neck, scanning the engineering bay. There was only one exit, and the moment they stepped into the corridor, they'd be in direct line of sight of the security team. Think, Travis. Think. Then he spotted it, a utility lift in the far corner. It was used for transporting heavy materials between engineering and the station's lower docking bay. His mind worked fast. If they could reach the docking level, they might find a way off the station. Come on, he said, grabbing Vayani's hand. I have an idea. Racing against time, Travis pried open the lift control panel, bypassing the safety locks in seconds. The lift doors slid open, revealing a dark, industrial-looking platform with exposed metal framework and a single control lever. Vayani hesitated for a moment. Are we sure this is safe? Travis smirked. Nope, but it's better than getting arrested. She exhaled sharply, then stepped inside with him. As the doors began to close, the sound of heavy boots echoed from the hallway. Travis's pulse spiked. They were too late. The security team had arrived. Through the narrow gap in the doors, he caught a glimpse of 3 armored officers, their weapons drawn. "Freeze," one of them shouted. Too late. Travis yanked the lift's manual override, and the platform lurched downward, descending into the station's lower levels. Blaster fire ricocheted off the closing doors, but then, darkness. They were falling. A rough landing. The utility lift wasn't meant for passengers, and it showed. The descent was rough, the platform rattling violently as they dropped deeper into the station. Vayani gripped the railing, her eyes wide. "I do not like this." "Yeah, me neither," Travis muttered, struggling to keep the lever steady. The docking bay was still 3 levels down, but the security team would have activated lockdown protocols by now. If the lift stopped at any checkpoint, they'd be trapped. Suddenly, the station's emergency systems kicked in, and the lift slowed sharply, nearly throwing them off balance. Vayani winced, gripping her head. The pressure. Travis quickly glanced at her. Her bioluminescent glow flickered, her body struggling against the artificial gravity shifts. The station was adjusting its security settings, which meant they were trying to trap them. He didn't have time to think. "Hold on." Without hesitation, he reached for the emergency brake release lever and yanked it down hard. The lift dropped again, faster this time. Vayani let out a startled sound, and Travis barely managed to keep them both from crashing into the floor as the platform plunged toward the lower levels. Then, impact. The lift slammed to a stop in the docking bay. Travis's ears rang, his body aching from the rough landing. But they were alive. Vayani slowly straightened, her breathing uneven. That was reckless. Travis coughed, giving her a half-smile. "Yeah, well, it worked." But they weren't safe yet. The docking bay was massive, filled with cargo crates, maintenance tunnels, and a handful of small transport ships. And across the room, more security officers were already mobilizing. "There," one of them shouted. "They're in the bay." Travis and Vayani locked eyes. No more running. They needed a way off this station. Now, an impossible escape. Travis's mind raced. The ships in the docking bay were all secured, requiring access codes. Stealing one would be next to impossible. But then he spotted something. An old cargo shuttle near the back of the bay. Unlike the sleek patrol vessels, this shuttle looked half disassembled, its access panel exposed for maintenance work. Travis grinned. "There, that's our way out." Vayani followed his gaze, then nodded. "I trust you." They sprinted across the bay, weaving between cargo crates as gunfire erupted behind them. Energy rounds sizzled past, but they didn't stop. Travis reached the shuttle first, ripping open the maintenance hatch. The security team was closing in. Vayani turned back, her glowing eyes narrowing. She stepped forward, raised her hand, and released a pulse of energy. A wave of golden light rippled through the air, short-circuiting nearby consoles and triggering a small explosion that sent debris flying. The security officers stumbled back, momentarily blinded. Travis's eyes widened. Okay, that was awesome. The shuttle swayed gently as it drifted through the vastness of space, leaving behind the station's glittering outline. Travis gripped the controls, his hand steady despite the adrenaline still coursing through his veins. Vayani, sitting beside him in the cockpit, watched the stars ahead with an intensity that matched his own. The escape had been barely successful, but they were free now, and that was all that mattered. She turned her glowing eyes to him, the light in them shifting between gold and violet. Her bioluminescence was dimming again, but there was a certain peace in her expression. "You saved us," she said quietly. Travis smiled, though the exhaustion from their escape weighed on him. "We saved each other." He looked out at the empty space ahead, feeling the pull of something greater than just survival. They had made it out, But what now? They didn't have a plan, no set course. The galaxy was as vast as it was dangerous, and they were alone in it. Vayani's voice broke his thoughts. What will we do now? Travis ran a hand through his hair. The shuttle was old, unreliable, and with their fuel reserves running low, they needed to think fast. First, we get somewhere safe, he said, glancing at the star map. There were planets nearby, small colonies that hadn't drawn the attention of the larger space factions yet. They might be able to find refuge there, at least long enough to regroup. Vayani nodded, her expression thoughtful. And after that? Travis paused. He wasn't sure what the future held. The station's security team would eventually report their escape, and it was only a matter of time before someone started searching for them. The fact that Vayani wasn't human only made things more complicated. After that, we survive. He met her gaze, a quiet determination in his eyes. We'll figure it out, together. A new beginning. The journey toward the nearest planet was uneventful, but the silence between them spoke volumes. Vayani seemed lost in thought, her glowing skin flickering from time to time. The longer they traveled, the more Travis noticed that her body was adjusting, the energy within her gradually becoming more balanced. She wasn't as weak as she had been on the station, but she wasn't fully recovered yet either. After a few hours, Travis noticed Vayani gently rubbing her wrist, the faintest flicker of pain crossing her face. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice softer than usual. She looked at him, her expression neutral but warm. "I am getting better." She paused, a hint of sadness touching her features, but not quickly enough. Travis tilted his head. "I don't know much about your species, but you're strong. I've seen it." Vayani's eyes softened, the light within her dimming a little. "Thank you, Travis." The sincerity in her voice surprised him, and for a moment, the weight of their situation seemed to lift. There was something almost comforting in the quiet of space, in the shared understanding between them. Suddenly, the shuttle's communication system beeped. It was a simple, automated transmission, nothing dangerous. A single sentence flashed across the screen. "Unidentified ship detected. Approach with caution." Travis frowned, his mind racing. "That's not good." Vayani sat up straighter, her glowing eyes narrowing. "It could be a patrol ship. We should avoid it." Travis's fingers hovered over the controls. If they altered their course now, they'd burn even more fuel. But if they didn't, they might be caught. "Let's take the risk," he muttered. "We'll go to the nearest settlement. Stay low." He changed their heading, setting the shuttle on a course toward a small moon orbiting a nearby planet. It was a place that didn't show up on most charts, just a quiet, forgotten rock, with only the occasional mining operation. Vayani said nothing, but her eyes softened as she watched Travis's movements. For the first time in a while, she felt that maybe, just maybe, they could carve out a place for themselves. They didn't have much, just the shuttle and each other. But that might be enough. As they flew toward the dark moon, Travis looked at her again, the weight of everything lifting just enough for a small, genuine smile to form. "You're not alone anymore," he said, as if the words were a promise. Vayani's bioluminescent skin flared brightly for a brief moment, then softened into a steady, warm glow. Her eyes locked on his. "And neither are you." Together, they steered the shuttle into the unknown, toward a future that was uncertain, but filled with possibility. They weren't just survivors anymore. They were something more. And as the shuttle broke through the planet's atmosphere, the stars above seemed a little less distant, the journey ahead a little brighter.